Thank you so much for joining me today on Your Family Lawyer. I am so glad to have you spend this time with me this evening, today, Tuesday, 10 p.m. Nigeria time. My name is Earl and I'm all right, and I'm so glad to have you on board. Yes, of course, over the years, I've always had people who come up with many questions. They want to know how they can make the right decisions regarding their family, make right decisions about marriage, about separation, about divorce, about custody, about family property, about inheritance, many things, a lot. There are many things that causes concern that people want to have answers to these questions that are bothering them, these questions that they want answered. And that's why we have created Your Family Lawyer. Of course, I've been a lawyer for about 11 years plus, and I've also been a counselor for 19 years plus. So I'm sitting in a position where I have an understanding of both sides. So thank you for joining me. But I want you to realize and understand that this is not legal advice. If you need proper counseling regarding your matter, I would always suggest that you consult with a lawyer. Do not take what we share here as legal advice over your matter. It's just an opinion. It's just general information. So that the question is simple, is straightforward. I believe we all should be able to relate and connect with it to a large extent, whether you are in it or not. And the question is, how long can one stay separated before one could be said to have divorced, right? Does separation ever automatically mean divorce, all right? How long should I be separated from my spouse before it can be said that we have divorced? These are the questions that we want to answer today, and I hope that at the end of today, I'll be able to meet all your questions regarding this particular issue of separation, right? I had mentioned earlier on that this is not legal advice, so as much as possible, I'll not be using legal jargons. I will not even be citing laws. And not just that, I will also ensure I do everything to ensure that I communicate in a language that you can understand. Last week, we talked about what is family law, and today we are answering a question that someone asked, and that question is, can separation ever automatically become divorce? Remember that I have promised again and again that it is the questions that you people ask that we'll use to form topics that we'll discuss here every Tuesday, 10 p.m. Right? Now, you can only say that you are married because the law says you are married. So if the law of marriage does not agree that you are married, if all the different laws do not agree that you're married, if there's no law that validates your marriage, I'm talking about the civil laws of your country, the cultural laws, the customs of your tradition that are not repugnant to general justice, that are generally acceptable. If there is no law out there that says that you are married, that defines the union that you have as marriage, then you are not married, no matter how much you try or you want to be married. This is something many people do not understand, and they do not get, but we try to explain to them. Like, for example, taking Nigeria as a case study, because I'm a Nigerian, I'm in Nigeria right now, is in Nigeria we have two major laws that governs and regulates marriages. We have the Marriage Act, and we have the different customary laws and customary rules. As part of our customary laws and customary rules, it is generally agreed that we have Islamic marriage and we have customary marriages based on the different customary laws and practices of the country, where right now we're having discussions front to back, to and fro, here and there, saying that, oh, we have statutory marriage, which is based on the Marriage Act, we have Islamic marriage, and we have customary marriage. That may be the general thing that you hear, but in the real sense, it is divided into two. the statutory marriages and marriages that are not statutory, right? So you can always say that you are married under Islamic law or you have an Islamic marriage if your union, if the relationship you have with this other person that you're calling your spouse is actually defined by a law, right? We have seen situations where people say that, oh, for you to divorce a woman under Islamic law, you put her aside. Once you say you divorce her, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you, you say it 3 times, you throw her out of your house, then automatically you are divorced. Automatically you have divorced her. Where that is not what most of the law says. That's not what the law says, because usually I understand and I've done such cases of when an Islamic couple want to divorce, they have to go to either an Islamic court, a Sharia court, or a customary court in that particular jurisdiction, right? So, but however, there are some states where they just allow the traditions to apply. So it applies when it comes to statutory marriages. And statutory marriages are marriages under the Act, and we're talking about marriage that was contracted, conducted at a marriage registry, which people generally call court marriage. And we're also making reference to marriages that happen in a church that is registered and licensed for marriage, or in a place, a hall, an open ground that is registered and licensed for marriage. But we're not talking about marriage today. We are not trying to define marriage today. We are not trying to explain how to contract, how to have a valid, a lawful marriage, wedding ceremony. That's not what we're discussing today. We are talking about whether there's ever a time that separation would become divorce, whether there's ever a time that two people who were married and living together get separated, and because they have been separated for a long time, it is now divorce. Remember, this topic was asked by someone, and that's why we are making it to this topic. So if you want us to treat any of your topics here live on Your Family Lawyer, you could send me a DM, whether you send me a DM on Facebook, or you drop a comment on YouTube, or you send a DM on Instagram, or maybe you have my WhatsApp contact and you can chat to me directly. I'll also drop my WhatsApp contact for those who may want to be able to contact me directly. So we are actually talking about separation, and I'm going to look at separation from 2 angles. I'm going to look at it for those from the angle of those who have a statutory marriage. I mean, who conducted who had their wedding ceremony at a marriage registry or at a church that is licensed for marriage. In a simple way, for those who have the federal government marriage certificate. Yes, so I think that's the best way to explain statutory marriage. So I'm going to be looking at separation from the angle of those who have a federal government marriage certificate. And I'm also going to be looking at it from the angle of those who do not have a federal government marriage certificate, but they are validly married under their customs, of their traditions, under their culture. So these are the things I'm going to be looking at this evening. And I hope you are able to understand, follow me, so that you get it clearly, right? Now, remember I said earlier on that it is the law that defines marriage. It is the law that actually states whether you are married or not. Again, when it comes to separation, it is also the law that defines whether you're validly separated or not. And it is the law that should also define whether separation at any particular time could automatically mean divorce, right? There are many people who get separated from their spouse with no intentions of ever coming back, with no intentions of working on the marriage. They have decided that they don't want this marriage again, but rather than seek divorce, they decide to pull out from the house. Many times could be because of cultural reasons or religious reasons. Oh, marriage is for life, I'm not supposed to divorce. Oh, if I divorce, the stigma, my family, and all of that. In my family, we don't divorce, we don't do this, we don't do that. And people have many reasons why they may not want to divorce. I do not want to look into the validity or genuinity of their reasons today, but we should understand that people have reasons, and as long as they think it is right, to that extent, it is right for them until it is properly reviewed in accordance with the law or accordance with every other thing to see whether they are right or they are wrong, right? So remember I said earlier on that people just get separated. Many people get separated with no intentions of working on the marriage again, with no intentions of coming back to the marriage. They just want to leave. They don't want to remarry. They don't want to totally severe. They don't want to totally break out from their previous marriage, right? And we come to find these people always asking, oh, I've been separated from my spouse for the last 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. I do not even know where he is. I do not even know where she is. We are not longer communicating. I cannot trace any of their relatives. Yes, things happen and things like this exist. And so you have these people asking, don't you think we are already divorced? I think I can remarry. There are many who have gone ahead to remarry. Hey, family and friends, I want to tell you this today, that separation at no material time, at no particular time, ever becomes divorce. And I'm saying it most especially when it comes to, I'm saying it from both, it's not necessarily most especially, whether we are talking about customary marriages or we are talking about statutory marriages. I do not know of any law, I do not know of anywhere where separation automatically becomes divorce. I cannot tell you that, oh, when it comes to this, it automatically becomes divorce, or when it comes to this particular culture. I remember I did my undergraduate research work, which we generally call project, on the concept of customary law marriage in Nigeria, and I zoomed in on the Eastern custom. But then I had to review many other customs. So I looked at marriage, I looked at separation, I looked at divorce. That was several years ago. Of course, I finished university in 2010, and right now, if you are computing, you will say I'm 11 years post-call. Okay, now, in reviewing several cultures, I noticed something, that there are rules and procedures for divorce. If you do not follow that rule of divorce, you are not yet divorced, right? So it's the general customs out there, the general tradition out there in our various customs in Nigeria is, one, maybe the man says, I'm not marrying you again, and he throws away he throws away the woman's dowry. This is where we should understand the difference between dowry and bride price. Bride price is what a man pays on a woman, right? In customary marriage, what a man presents to a bride's father as part of the negotiations and as part of the bargain, the conversations and discussions to marry that particular girl. That's bride price. While dowry are the wife things that this woman brings into her house. I don't know if I'm getting it correctly, but it forms what we'll say the kayamata, the load, the properties of this wife that she brings into her house. I may not know about your particular custom, but I'll use my custom as a case study. I am a son from Edo State of Nigeria. When a lady is getting married, and I've seen this in other customs too, the mother is required to give her cooking utensils and other wifely and motherly things so that she'll be able to perform wifely duties, perform motherly duties in her husband's house. In some other cultures, like in northern Nigeria, in some parts of northern Nigeria, I've seen a situation wherein they also give the woman the furniture for the man's house, mattresses, and everything that will make that house a home, right? Now, for some churches, like I know of Church of God Mission International, that's the ministry of late Archbishop Bensi Andrew Dahosa. The church will usually collect an offering, especially for the bride to prepare food for her husband. They'll collect an offering on the wedding day, that's especially for the bride, to prepare food for her husband. So what the man pays on the wife is what we refer to as bride price, right? Although bride price more technically means the money that is paid, that is demanded for in that list. While dowry happens to be the properties, the things that the woman brings into her marriage to be able to perform her duties as a wife and also as a mother, right? So the first type of divorce is when the man, in some customs in Nigeria, is when the man throws away the woman's dowry, like the things that the woman brought, throws them away and also pushes the woman out and says, I no longer want you to be my wife. I no longer want you to be part of my life, right? That's a customary way. However, there are laws in different states that has made that a crime, that has made that an offense. For example, if you were to do that in your state, you'll be guilty of an offense. You definitely be found liable because there are federal laws, and right now in Oyo State we also have state laws that forbids you from kicking your spouse out of the house and from locking your spouse out of the home, right? This law is not only to it's not only in favor of women, but it's in favor of men too. So if a woman throws a man out of the house, or a woman locks her husband out of the house, she's also guilty of an offense. A scenario would have been that of was it Fuke Akindele, that the husband came up and started saying that his wife Fuke had thrown him out of the house. Where I did not, we are not here to analyze all the facts of that particular matter and to look into everything about it. But the truth is, we have federal laws and we have state laws that actually makes that an offense, that makes that a crime. However, customarily before now, that is to be one of the ways to divorce. Another way could be the man saying, leave my house, I want you to refund my bride price. Or the woman says, oh, I'm leaving your house and I am refunding the bride price, just the bride price, not the bride price list, just the bride price money, right? However, but for different states in Nigeria are creating laws that now dictates that for a customary marriage, not a woman, for a customary marriage to be properly dissolved, for you to say, oh, I'm completely separate, divorced from my marriage, divorced from my spouse and the rest, it has to be through a customary court and the rest. So it is the laws of the states that apply in this particular situation. The laws of the states regulate the customs and traditions of those particular states, right? Now, when it comes to statutory marriage, if you want to have a divorce under statutory marriage, you have to file a divorce petition in a state high court, or you file it in the federal high court, right? And that's because the state high court and the federal high court, when it comes to the marriage as statutory marriages, when it comes to marriages that have the federal government certificate, the state high court and the federal high court are said to have concurrent jurisdiction, which means that they have the same power, they can hear the same case, they can do the same case. So if somebody says that, oh, I am married right now and I want to do divorce, usually we want to know what kind of marriage you have. If you have only a customary marriage, we'll tell you, okay, let's go to a customary court. But if you have a statutory marriage, that means your marriage has the federal government marriage certificate. We'll tell you that let's go to the state high court, or we'll go to the federal high court. Okay, now let's come back again to, I believe you've understood that perfectly. So let's come back now to the part that has to do with separation. There is no law, there is no custom that I know of, there is no tradition that I know of where separation automatically becomes divorce, no matter how long you have been divorced, right? I have seen situations of people who were separated for more than 50 years. Yes, for more than 50 years. And yet, at the death of that person, it is still mentioned that, oh, so and so person is still his wife, or so and so person is still her husband. Yes, I've seen cases like that, because until the bride price is returned, or rather in today's reality, until there's a formal divorce proceeding and dissolution of that marriage, the marriage is still existing. So you can live apart as long as you like. You can live apart for 1 year, 10 years, 50 years, or even 70 years. If there have been no divorce whatsoever, if a court of law has not pronounced divorce in that particular marriage, the resolution of that particular marriage, you guys are still married, legally married, lawfully married. If it's a statutory marriage, it automatically means that none of you can remarry. If any of you ever chooses to remarry, then that person is committing bigamy. And of course, if you want to know what's the punishment for bigamy, I want you to consult with your lawyer, right? So that you get the full details of where bigamy applies and the punishment that goes with it. So if you are separated from your spouse and you guys are no longer in communication, it's been long, you guys saw each other, you don't even know the whereabouts of each other, it has been 30 years, this is 45 years after, hey, then we advise you to just go and have a formal divorce. In fact, in Nigeria, if you guys have been separated for the minimum of 2 years, you can come to court to ask for divorce just on the ground of having lived apart for 2 years. Right, so it is sufficient grounds in itself. In some countries, I do understand that you could do it for 5 years. So once it's 5 years, all you just need to do is to just come to court and apply for it, right? But in Nigeria, you can ask for divorce. I know there are different rules regarding divorce, but we have this situation. I've been a counsel in a particular divorce proceeding where the couple separated on their wedding night. Another one, they separated about 2 days after their wedding, and now they are divorced. Yes, there are rules to that. Our law is not pro-divorce. We don't have pro-divorce laws in Nigeria. The laws in Nigeria and the attitude of the courts in Nigeria is to see how much marriages thrive, how much marriages survive. So the judge is first of all given a responsibility to act as a conciliator to see if he can play a role to settle this couple, to make this couple come together, right? So we are not pro-divorce. Yes, you mean the general rule would be before you could approach the court for divorce, you guys ought to be married for about 2 years, but there are many exceptions to it why you can apply for divorce even a day after your wedding. And I've given you 2 instances of matters that we have handled in the office where the cohabitation of the people did not last more than 1 weekend, where the harmony in the marriage did not last more than 1 weekend. So it is possible. However, once a couple has they have been married and they have lived apart at one particular time or the other in their marriage, they have lived apart for a period of 2 years. That period of 2 years is sufficient grounds for one of the parties to come to court to say, and I want a divorce. You don't necessarily need to prove intolerable behavior. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to play dirty. All you're just saying is that as a couple, we have lived together, we have lived separately for 2 years, and it will be sufficient on its own, right? I hope you get that clearly. But this is it. There is no time that separation ever automatically become divorce, whether it is customary marriage in Nigeria or it is statutory marriage. So if you're separated right now from your spouse and you have been separated from long and you don't intend going back, please go and have a formal divorce. Trust me, for those who use religion as a basis why they don't want to divorce because their religion frowns against it. If you're a Christian, I would like to let you know that your religion also frowns against separation, right? Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 says, let the husband not live separately from the wife and let the wife not live separately from the husband, right? The purpose of marriage, the first purpose of marriage we can see in Genesis chapter 1, I'm talking to those who are Christians, is companionship. God did not want man. He said it was not good for man to be alone. So if you're living apart and if you're separated, you're violating the first principle of marriage. So the best will just be divorce. Like, why are you um, acting married when you are not married? Why are you single when you are not single? That's who the person who is separated is. Married, you're not married. Single, you're not single. You're just in between, right? If I should use, again, you're neither hot or you're cold. So just choose one. It's either you are hot, you're married, or you're cold, you are divorced. Why be... are you divorced? No, I'm not divorced. There are many cases like that around us and the rest, but separation is separation. And lastly, I would like to say something before we call it a day, is the fact that many of us, what many people call separation is not actually called desertion of marriage, right? Legally, lawfully, it's called desertion of marriage, abandonment of your conjugal obligations and duties and responsibilities. For you to be properly and lawfully separated from your spouse, you need to get what we call judicial separation. It's for the court to order a separation pending when you guys reconcile or when you choose to continue the journey by divorcing, right? So it has to be by judicial separation. But if it is not judicial separation, it is literally abandonment of your marriage. It is abandonment of your spouse. It is desertion of marriage, right? So that is even unlawful in many circumstances. So if you say, oh, he was this or she was that, that's how to run away from my life. Yes, you ran away from your life, but this is 1 month after. What have you done about the running away? Have you gone to court to seek proper judicial separation, or have you made any steps in filing a divorce petition? Don't just stay away 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because we see that a lot. You are breaking too many laws, right? You're breaking too many laws. So I would advise you, which is a suggestion. Remember that this is not legal advice. To consult with your lawyer so I get proper legal advice. I will advise you to make a decision. Psychologists generally agree that separation should not last more than 3 to 6 months. In fact, for me, I usually say the extreme should be 9 months. Separation should not last more than 3 to 6 months by generally psychologists, for you to make that decision as to whether you want to go back to the marriage or not. Right? So if after 9 months you have not made that decision, I would say that is serious irresponsibility. You are not taking charge of your life. You are not leading your life. You are not making the proper decisions about your life. You are neglecting that aspect of your life. In a real sense, you are the person that it paints bad. Yes, you are the person it paints bad. I think that 9 months is maximum. I agree generally with the psychologists that 3 to 6 months should be sufficient enough for you to determine, to ascertain whether or not you want to continue with this marriage or you want to divorce, right? Separation has a purpose, and that is the simple purpose: to be able to step out from the marriage, to be able to, from a perspective, from a distance, review the marriage. But many people who get separated from their spouse are not reviewing any marriage. They just leave and they just walk away, which is wrong, which is not proper. So 2 things I have told you: that there's a difference between separation and desertion of marriage. And most importantly, my answer to this question is that there's never ever a time that separation will ever becomes divorce. There's never a time that separation automatically becomes divorce. Even if you have been separated for the last 70 years, as long as you have not done a formal divorce, you are still married to your spouse. You may be living with somebody right now, you are still married to your spouse. If you're married to somebody else, you may be guilty of bigamy. Yes, that is if the first marriage you have is a statutory marriage. But if the first marriage you have is a customary marriage and you are a man, you are married to another woman, it may not be a crime. But if you're a woman, all you have is a customary marriage and you are married to another man, based on your custom, it may be a crime, right? So those are the things you should consider. My name is Earl and I'm all right. Thank you so much for following Tina. Share this with your friends, share this with your family so I get to have this basic understanding. And if you drop a question, you contact me via DM, you will get a response. You can contact me via WhatsApp. Remember that this is every Tuesday. This happens every Tuesday, 10 p.m. Nigeria time. Thank you so much for following. Do not forget that this is not legal advice. And of course, my name is Earl, and I'm all right. Most importantly, you rock.